Hey, we're live.
Hey.
Cheryl.
Hey.
Welcome
Zach.
to the I Like Birds podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Hey, you're welcome. I'm honored you're here. For everybody tuning in, thank you so much for being here. We had a little extended version of the song that you're normally not used to hearing, but that's okay.
I was waiting on you to start talking for me to
Oh,
say.
really? All right. You know, we
Sorry.
learn something new every day.
Next time.
I was just enjoying the song, but thank you so much, Taylor, for cueing that song for us, and we're
It's a
excited
good
to be
intro.
here. Yeah, it is. Yeah, absolutely. Especially the part where they're singing. When they start rapping, it gets a little like, oh, you know, that's a little secular. Sorry. We usually edit that part out, but all right. But I'm so excited that you're here. It's been so long since I've actually seen you in person. I feel like we've just been so busy with life. You were my mother-in-law, for those that don't know. We actually went to Africa together at the beginning of this year.
Yep.
Life-changing event. And that's what transpired into the book that you graciously edited with me.
Congratulations on the publishing and all.
Yeah, thank you.
Pretty cool.
Thank you. Yeah, it's super cool. Very, very exciting, and people have been really enjoying it. And especially when I drop a picture of something that happened there to paint a real visual for them, it's been really encouraging to see people enjoy that and just show love about the humor in it and stuff. And you were one of the big characters in it, obviously, because you were the founder of the TheSuubiProject, which is a nonprofit that you've been graciously just keeping going strong for over a decade now. What's it been, 12 years?
Is this our 12th? We just passed 12.
Yeah, 12
October
years.
or something or other.
A dozen years.
12 years,
And
yeah. It's
it's
crazy.
just, it's wild. You just got back from there. You were in Africa for how many days recently?
A little over 2 weeks.
A little over 2 weeks. And so we went in the beginning of the year and you went again, which, wow. And the
Yeah.
fact that you went twice this year, you know, with all that's going on in your personal life is admirable. So how was that trip? What was it like?
It was good. It was good to be back. Got a lot of just housekeeping kind of stuff done. First year back since COVID. We were shut down a year and a half. Then we had like starts and stops. So it was good to see the kids in school. Good to see part of the building that we had structured or whatever up and going, and kids in there enjoying it, and
Yeah.
how God's just expanding it. It's crazy. So yeah, it's really cool.
I see that they got their school uniforms, and that was something that when we were there
That
was a
is-
big need and a big ask. So that was really cool to see, you know, from afar,
Yeah.
to tune in and just see that they received them and the joy on their
Yeah.
faces. Like how was that in real time?
People don't understand here like what a big deal that is to them, but they're very it's a how do I even describe it? It's this provision for them that makes them feel proud and put together. Like, we like to do that, but we don't understand a uniform is such a big deal because they wear tattered rags the
Right.
rest of their lives.
Absolutely.
Not all of them. You know, we have some that they're able to afford decent clothes, but a lot of them run around in raggedy t-shirts and shorts and no shoes. And so when they get these gifts, it's such a blessing to them, and they will, you know, makes them feel a certain way about themselves. And so it's really fun to be there and see how they receive that and just how grateful they are. And so I wish I need to find a video and just relay that to sponsors, or even people that don't sponsor and they just donate for uniforms.
Right.
Because it is such a huge thing for them. And this year it was fun. Our P7 class was graduating, and so we didn't get a uniform for them. And so we are getting them athletic shorts and a t-shirt. And that alone was just like, oh my gosh,
Right.
thank you so much, because it is a big deal to them.
Yeah.
And it's hard for us to understand the impact that
Yeah.
shoes and clothes can have for them. So it was really fun.
Yeah,
Big party.
and I love that you say that it's hard for people to understand, and that's one of the big, takeaways, and one of the big goals and visions I had for writing the book was for people to actually have some form of experience with it through my experience with it of
Right.
going out there,
Right.
and I feel like it really opened the people's eyes because I had my buddy Robert Chapa. He made me some graphics for the book promo, and he put like a giraffe in the graphic, and I was like, oh, I don't think you understand. It's not that kind of Africa out there, bro. You know,
Right.
so
Yeah.
a lot of people's perceptions of
Yeah.
Africa is what we see on TV and whatnot. And I just saw this study the other day that said this statistic, not study, but 0.9% Africa holds the wealth. 0.9%
Yeah.
of all the wealth in the entire world, 0.9%. And we have I think it's like 40 or something like that up there in the trillions and trillions of dollars. And they have 4 trillion compared to our 50 trillion.
Right.
And it just shows that they're just so far behind when it comes to economically. And like you said with the t-shirts thing, like once I thought about it myself when I was there, when they were trying to, campaign and come to you guys as to help provide those for them, and all the parents, all the teachers, everybody was like, yo, we really need this help. And I was just like, why don't they just wear like what they got to school? Like, it's just a uniform. I didn't see it at that time, but then I started looking around. I was like, man, that little girl has like a Hello Kitty shirt on. It's like, you can't wear a Hello Kitty. It's just like, it's wild.
Especially when it's full of holes,
Yeah, exactly. And then they outgrow them and they're dirty. They wear them all day, So just being able to bless somebody with that. And that's why it's just so crazy to me that like for just such a small amount of American dollars that just goes so far out there.
Yeah.
And I don't think I was able to see that firsthand where, you buy a huge bag of rice and it's legit like $5 US to feed a family for a month. You know what I mean? So tell me a little bit about how you were like, you felt called by God to start the Suubi Project.
Oh, wow, that's a story. But before we go there, I just wanted, what you're doing is you're a lens through which people see the Africa that you see, or the Uganda that you see.
Yeah.
And one time a friend of mine, she was just encouraging, was talking about how that people that don't get to go to Suubi, which is one of the reasons we wanted to take teams, was because you open up a whole new world view for people. Because if you've never been, then you don't know. And I even had a weird, it was all desert and mud huts, and which is a lot. It's not desert because it's beautiful on the equator, but it's still a lot of mud huts and stuff. But then there's also a rich side of the country, like you were talking about. But you're the lens, and that's why it makes it so you going and seeing makes me excited, because the more people that go and see and then they come back and share that, then that's how people get involved. Because somebody may never be able to go, but your story and the way that you viewed it and the things that you learned, that might compel them to be part of it in some other way. Because everybody has a part, right?
Yep.
We all have a part. So yeah, gosh, I'm sure you want to get into the story of
how
how this all started.
I know, but it's one of those things. And I'll say this because I've been wanting to say it for a while. It's like I've read. I was in my Bible college, and I was reading a lot of books that had to do with this concept of like people that start overseas ministries and then they stop committing to them. They stopped.
It's hard.
Yeah, it's hard,
Yeah.
and it's one of those things where it's like, how do you keep that drive and like and that desire and that heart burning for that community and for that area and for all that you're doing out there? Like, how do you keep that? How do you work through the feeling of wanting to give up when you see that long list of needs that come in every day?
Yeah, that's a good question, because there have been times when it's like, okay, I just need to, how am I going to keep doing this? We do have a large family, 10 kids. And how many grandkids do I have now?
Oh, I don't want to count.
And I love the life that I know, like, what are we on, 11? I think there's 11 grandkids. Wow. Blessed. Blessed and blessed and blessed. But it's, sometimes it's a struggle. It's like, how am I going to do this? Now we've sold our house and we're fixing to move, and then we're going to, build, and all of these are great things, but it's very time consuming. And so there's been moments when I've thought, okay, Lord, I don't know how I'm going to keep doing this. And I will say that it is the trips, but it's also the phone calls and communication with them, because how could I leave them? They're my family. They're my people. They're my friends.
Yes, they are.
And they're my children.
Yeah.
So they're just, Mama Cheryl's not something that they just holler. It's the way I feel about them.
Right.
And so I think that's just, and when I feel that way, God is so faithful. I'll just go and lay it at his feet and go, okay, I don't have the energy right now, and I don't have even the passion, because passion's not going to get you 11 years down the road, that are 12, now 12 years down the road. And so it's just a lot of going before him and remembering. And that's why taking a trip is always helpful. And it was really hard the year we were shut down. I ended up going in 2020, but it was very different. And but just seeing the faces and remembering the faces and the people, and also knowing that, we're blessed to be a blessing.
Yes.
But why are we here? It's just to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ. And what better way to do that than to love people where they are? And we always talk about how, Jesus fed the people when he was preaching to them, because you can't minister to someone when they're hungry and all they're thinking about is food.
Right.
And so by feeding them and providing uniforms and providing an education, we get to their hearts. Because then, so many people have come to, not to me necessarily personally, but to David in the office or someone else, and just shared, why does Mama Cheryl love us? Why does she keep doing this? And even the people, the sponsors and the other visitors that have come, they remember those people, and they have a connection to them, and they'll ask why. And the faithful, constant answer is because they love you, because they love Jesus, and because this is what Jesus would do. And so it's kind of where you got to stay.
Yeah.
Because on my own, I'm too selfish. I would be like, no,
Right.
I'll be by the pool, hanging out, having the easy life. But
And it goes to show, like, I think we take for granted here in America just how taken care of we are. Where it's like, man, I've done a fast or two before, but I haven't been hungry. I haven't been in that place of like, man, if nobody's taking care of me, nobody's helping me, and then somebody comes in that's trying to be a light of Jesus and light of Christ, and like gives me not only like you said, that nourishment and that food and that blessing, that attached to it is money, essentially,
right.
but at the same time, that one thing, it transpires into like, nobody else has ever done this for me before. Why? And then you start to see that the connection is God. The connection is God is taking care of me through this person.
Right.
God is sending this person to me, because that's all it's engineered by. That's why you're there. You're
right.
not there for you. As you said, you would be kicking it by the pool, relaxing, just chilling, but in Africa is a real test. You go there and it stinks. You go there and it's hard. It's not an easy experience. Obviously you've put in place some good people around you and some good things out there to thrive there, but it wasn't always like that for you guys. Catherine was telling me the other day, which is my wife and Cheryl's daughter, that she used to have to go behind squatty potty behind the building, to go to the bathroom, and like, that's a whole different experience when you go from like, especially as a female, having a squatty potty. I don't mind going behind the building, but I don't got to bend down and look for a leaf. You know what I mean? So the fact that like there's just such a different world out there, and to being able to reach that, and I just feel like there's such an opportunity right now for people to become aware of it because of the access of technology and information and books and, and wanting to do something bigger than outside of America. Because for the first time when I went there, I felt I was making a tangible difference when it comes to ministry, when it comes to like, the podcast is great, but it's very digital, and my business is great, but it's digital, everything feels behind the screen, and being able to be there in person was just like, it was something that felt so real, and it built me up, and it gave me a spark and rekindled my faith even more so to see what God was doing, not just, in my own personal life and to the people around me in America, but what God's doing out there on a bigger level. So it grew my faith. Which would you say that happens to you every time you're there?
Well, yeah, my faith always grows when I'm there, because it's just it's being up close and personal to see what God's doing. It's because when I'm here, it's answering emails and
digital
finding finding money, and which that's just a struggle in itself, and especially when people here are struggling financially, and it's like, well, how do you ask them for $5 more, or how do you ask them to spend $25 on a meal? We're raising money for Christmas meals right now, and I'm just like, how, Lord, how? You just have to provide it. So it's very it's when going there, then you see the fruit of the labor that happens here. Just because it's up close and personal. Going to visit my friends, the widows, and they're my friends now, and going into their homes and seeing how they live and how they struggle, and being able to pray for them and encourage them.
They love you so much.
Because they're so encouraged. And I love them so much. And they're so encouraged by just that visit with them. And Mama Cheryl visited my house. It's like, but no, it's more than that. It's that they know that the connection is Jesus.
Right.
And so often we remind them He sees you and He loves you and He cares about you and He hasn't forgotten you here, because a lot of them feel forgotten.
Right.
And they're, especially our elderly community, just the fact that their families often abandon them, and then they're just struggling to survive in the community. And but our kids too, they're just the way that they're treated at school versus the way that they may be treated at home. And going back to the ministry, it's where God calls it. One time someone asked me, why'd you go all the way to Uganda to adopt kids and build a ministry? I'm like, that's where God called me. I don't know.
Right.
Why He didn't do it in some state closer, I do not know, but that's where He called me.
Mexico is like right up the street.
Well, there's so many kids just in the U.S.
that
that need families. And that's all. That's great, but that's not where God called me. And so just trying to be faithful to that, and just
like, who's going to say yes, if not you, then who, and then that's something that I feel I really admire you for, is because it takes guts to do something like that, and you do it graciously, and you do it with you just do it with force. It feels like with authority, with spiritual authority.
Well, I'll be honest, I used to do it scared to death.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where I started.
That's where
I
it started.
was so fearful of flying when the first time we were going to Africa. I was petrified.
Yeah.
And I was petrified of Africa. I was going to die something weird.
Right.
And I was, it was scary. But the whole time, it's like, Lord, if you've called me to this, then you're going to get me there, and I'm just going to trust in you, because it literally was, and I don't know if you call it blind faith, but faith. It's just faith in him, knowing that, okay, he's called me to this, and I was so certain of that calling. And that's the thing, is when God calls you to something, you're going to question it.
Right.
And other people are going to question it, and the enemy's going to try and steal it from you, and he's going to make you question it. And I just kept going, what did God say to me?
Right.
And because I held fast to what I heard from him, and he was so faithful to repeat himself, it wasn't a question. It's like, I'm doing it scared, until I got to the point where this isn't scary anymore. This is rewarding.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say fun, but I love the people. And so,
yeah, you do. And it shows when I was there. Taylor, is there any way we can get like some widows that are on the graphics of the Suubi Project on Instagram, just so we can get a visual representation of the type of people that Cheryl's referring to here? I think that's two of them right there at the top. That's Jerediah, right? Jerediah? Zerida. Zerida, who's 100 and how old?
She will be 101 this year.
101 years old.
Yeah.
And she has joy. I remember she was dancing when we came through. She was shaking those 100-year-old hips and was just shimmying with it the whole time. And she fell on me. I was video filming, and she fell on me like from shaking it too hard. It was hilarious. Yeah. And then what's this one's right here?
That's
what's her
Catherine.
name?
And Catherine she lived in her house was literally falling down. And so this is when you were here. And we visited her after we had some donations and built her a home. So now she lives there with her sons. She doesn't have to worry about it falling over anymore.
Right.
We actually built Zerida a house. She was living in a mud hut with a hay roof. And we visited her, and then 2 days later, or the next day, I said, I can't do this because it's raining on her, and she has to huddle in this little. You don't picture that,
right? And
these, they sleep on mats and the concrete floor, and so it's like, no, we're going to do something. So I put a call out on Facebook or on Instagram and said, hey, we need money for this lady, and it was blessing to see how many people.
Wow.
Will help. So
yeah, and I love that, taking that chance and just putting it out there. Hey, we have a need. Can you guys help? And I feel like that is, I don't want to call it impulsive needs, but like things come up in real life like that,
right.
Where something happens. Hey, I need help. I need my Suubi supporters to come through and just bless. And you give 25 here, 50 here, 100 here. Next thing you know, you have enough to build somebody an entire house.
And it's actually easier to build while I'm there. It's to meet needs. And it's actually easier for me to get on and, do a call to action because I'm there in real time. It's real emotions. It's real feelings. It's conversations that are happening right now. So that's almost easier. Not almost. It is easier than when I'm here and I get an email and this is what we need and this is how we need to do it. For instance, her name just escaped my mind. She's the mom who's living literally in a tent with some metal sheets and some plastic, and she's getting rained on, and she's got 2 or 3 kids, and I'm like, no, we've got almost all the money to build her house, but I think we need like $800 or $900 more dollars. Wow. We're going to build her house but that happened while I was there. So I started, well, then I get back here and there's a removal and my life takes over and all this stuff. And so it's easier when we're there to just do that call to action. And
yeah. Taylor, can we go back real quick? I wanted to talk about
Janet.
Janet, that's one. But the one you were referring to right here, Catherine, I remember she hugged you like 25 times when you built that house for her. And that was something that I witnessed of like what real joy looks like when you when you help somebody in need of that magnitude, And I think here, and maybe you can help me with this, and maybe this is a perspective I shouldn't have, but I have it. In America, when somebody is poor, I have a hard time being as compassionate as I should be because of the opportunities here, because of the programs here, because of the things that are here that it's the land of the opportunity. Sincerely, it really is. You can go to a coffee shop. I mean, I don't even want to go down that path. Yeah. But for the most part, it's harder to have compassion here for somebody that is struggling in the land of opportunity. When we shared about the wealth graph of the amount of money that's here and things that happen, and it's just America. It's the place of the home and the brave and the free, right?
Right.
So, but when you see something like that where somebody has, no family, their family abandoned them, it's no jobs out there, it's it's inflation going crazy, it's the government corruption. There's so many factors that play into somebody's poverty there that it almost feels like they don't have a chance, you know. And then so when you help somebody like that, it's like that joy. Look at her face, you know what I mean? Look at that, and that face hugged you 25 times that day I was there. Seriously, she hugged you. Over. She prayed for you. She was like shaking you, like so excited that you guys blessed her with this house. And that comes down to the people also that are supporting Suubi. And that's why, you know, I ask all my friends that I know are Jesus lovers, like, hey, if you can, you know, donate any amount, it just goes such a long way. I've seen it with my own eyes, like what it does for people out there. You know, it's the price of a fancy car wash to sponsor a kid every month, you know. So
well, thank you for sharing.
Yeah, absolutely, because it's and I felt like when I was there, I saw that list of needs just stacking up, and people would be at your doorstep every single day almost asking you like and giving you a problem that's very real, that's very like, you know, a certain amount of money can fix that problem. But obviously, you know, they don't have a way of making that or getting that. So it's like they come to you for this, and it's, I don't want to say a little amount, but amount that's doable to be raised by the people, for the people. And it's just amazing what a little bit of, you know, donations can do for somebody's life in real time out there. A house, a dwelling, something that they can bring their kids into the world with and not feel, you know, worried about their safety or their malnourishment or their you catch my drift. But it's just amazing.
It is very rewarding. And two, our goal is to help them be self-sufficient.
Right.
So we don't want to keep handing out to them.
Exactly.
And so what happens is, because we we build a house, or we give chickens, or we give goats and stuff like that, it helps them. So if we've given widows goats, well, they'll breed the goat and then have baby goats, and they're able to sell the goats. Yep. And so with the house, she could stop trying to fix it, and she could stop worrying about it falling down on her, and she's able to do other stuff with whatever little money that she does make.
Right. So you're teaching them to fish. You're not just giving them fish.
That's the goal. Yeah. That's the goal. I mean, like Zerida, I mean, she's 101 years old, but she still goes in the garden and she digs every single day, because now she doesn't have to worry about finding, you know, a dry place in her house to sleep or whatever. And so it's just, it's rewarding. And honestly, I would build them all a mansion and feed them.
Yeah, right. And then Janet, I mean, we talk about houses. Like, look at this house. If somebody's curious about what a house, you know, looks like, this is a family of, I think, 8 or 10. Yeah. I think it's 2 parents and then 8 kids living in this tiny house that has grass as the roof. And we were able to go there, and on the side of this building, it said, I remember very vividly, it said, "God is good, Jesus is the answer." Yeah. And to see that they had that faith even displayed on this little house is incredible. And then, of course, this story is one of the most heavy stories in the book, because we talk about the father who was making some bad decisions. You can see how scuffed up his clothing is. He was leaving his family to go rent a room somewhere else in the village. And we had to have a family meeting with him, with you and Pastor David, and speak some life into him and bring him back to his family, essentially. And you see those bags right there? That's the bag of food that you blessed him with. Yeah. And that was meeting a need, but also rekindling the family and bringing them back into the arena of God, you know? And can you speak on that, of like how many times you've experienced something of that nature where, you know, a simple conversation or a simple blessing can lead to real change?
Right. So Janet's father, and it's a typical abandonment thing. It's like, this is too hard. I can't make enough to feed everybody, so I'm going to go take care of myself somewhere else. We see a lot of that, but a lot of it comes down to we're working a lot with marriage and family there. There's so much abandonment with fathers and stuff. So helping him provide food for his family took off this burden that he felt, because he couldn't do it. Right. And so then talking to him about what his responsibility is and reminding him that God provides. You know, we were there because God brought this situation to our attention, and this was so heavy for you because you were there and you saw this in real time action. You know, like we see this every day. Right. It's just like my last trip being there, and we had one of our elderly widows that used to come all the time to her and her brother were very sick. So they'd been sick for months. And we didn't find out about it until our team they visit, but there's a lot of people to visit. And so there may be weeks that they missed certain people and found out this one was sick. And so we went in and, because our compound was overgrown, but we were able to take a team of other widows. And one of them was what is this lady's name that needs the house? Is it Margaret? Why can I not remember her name? I think it's Margaret. But she showed up with her baby, you know, on her back to clean this compound. and to bless this older couple because they had gotten so behind being sick that they couldn't keep up with it. And so it's Janet's family giving them food, talking to them, and encouraging him to come back to his family. And it doesn't mean it's not going to happen again, though.
Yeah.
Because it's a constant battle. Because the enemy is, doesn't want marriages to work, and he doesn't want fathers to take care of their children. And,
We're seeing that here too.
yeah, and it is detrimental to a community. And so just doing what we can do, and it's just loving them. We're just like, God sees you, and he hasn't abandoned you, and we're going to love you like this, and encourage you. And
yeah, it's a beautiful thing, and I think, and I'm really grateful that we're able to have this awesome studio where we can point at like people and give people a visual. It's a great idea. That was actually Cheryl's idea right before we started. She was like, "What if we had the pictures and we can kind of talk about them too to give people visual?"
And we've talked a lot about the widows, but like this Abraham down here, he is a very unique story. He is an orphan. And we start. So this is just the getting Suubi the broader picture. He's an orphan. We found him. Or he came to us when he was finishing up secondary school. So their schools are primary level 1 through 7, nursery through 7. And then they have a secondary school, which I think there's 6 years of that. And so he was in his later secondary school, and we started sponsoring him through school because most of our kids that are in our primary school now, their parents never went to secondary school. And so they're literally changing the whatever heritage of their family as far as education goes. So Abraham wanted to go to college, and he's actually just graduated as an engineer. Hey. And he's the first one in his family to do that.
Wow.
I say first one in his family. His parents are both deceased, and I can't remember how many, if he has siblings. But he's really, literally, were you here for this one too?
Yeah, he gave that. I took that picture, I think.
Yeah, he was just thanking us for, but he's also praising the Lord. And that's what we constantly remind them. It's not us. Because when we first went there, it was like, oh, the Mzungu, the white people are saving us.
Right.
And it was like, we had to constantly remind them, no, God sees you.
Yeah.
This is God
seeing you. I wrote about
you.
that a little bit too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
so it's just a cool story. We're so proud of him.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, he was very gracious and on his knees thanking y'all, and it was heavy, and just.
And what's cool is seeing God's going to bring him back to teach the younger kids because he has a heart to teach, and so Abraham wants to come back and
because you're 12 years in, you're able to see the fruit now of like what Suubi has done for these kids, and now they're growing up and being able to actually be. World changers in their community, which is like it spreads. It starts with the one, and then it goes out to the village, and then the community, and then it just spreads throughout Uganda.
The ripple effect I told you about.
Yeah, the ripple effect, and it's powerful because, man, to just be able to see that in real time is it's so much bigger than anything. It's what Jesus commands us to do in Matthew 28 is to go out there and make disciples, and they're doing that as well themselves now. And he had a fire for the Lord too. And when he was making that talk, he was also, I think he was one of the ones that was like preaching to the students about how to get their like lives on track and glorify God through their studies. And that was very, very powerful. Yeah. So. I love it. I when you were there and you were posting, like I was enjoying all the pictures because like I missed it in like a way that I didn't think I would. It was like
that's good. I want you to miss it.
Yeah, it was interesting, and I definitely can see myself going back and just especially with a new my new mindset in life, just working out in a better direction personally. As of late, I feel it'd be a good time to go back and see some peeps and help out again.
Well, they ask about you.
Oh yeah,
so,
good.
Of course.
Yeah, we had some fun while out there.
They'll remember you forever.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So one other thing I wanted to share with you and talk to you about is I feel like you're still so hungry for Jesus. You're still like so hungry for knowledge. Like you're always sending me like a new book that you're reading about your faith, or you're always, like watching some kind of like Tim Sheets or Dutch Sheets series. And like, you're still very like, you're still trying to grow in your faith. Like how I feel like you're one of the most mature Christians I know in your faith, but yet you're still seeking, which is admirable. Can you like touch on that and like why that is and your process of that?
Oh gosh. Because I'm a hot mess most days, I guess.
You're still in your flesh a lot of days.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
I think it's just we're all going in one direction or another, and there are seasons when I'm not doing that. So don't get me wrong. There are plenty of seasons where I'm not, but just it's remembering where everything that I have comes from, remembering what my responsibility is, and wanting to make sure I get it right. And so it's the I just know how much he loves me, and I know how much he's done for me. And it's not that I have to do anything to earn faith or to earn favor with God. He loves me just as I am with nothing. There was a time in my life, believe it or not, that the enemy really tried to rob me of my identity, which he does. He attacks our identity because if we don't even know who we are, then we definitely don't know who we are in Christ. And we were a couple of years into Suubi, and the enemy just came hard after me, and it was just I was traveling back and forth 3 times a year to Uganda. There's just a lot going on, and I was in the Word, but I wasn't on my face as often as I should be, and it really showed, and I really felt it. But he was so faithful. He just healed the wounds and reminded me of truth, and I'm compelled by how much he loves me and what he's rescued me from and what he's redeemed in my life. I'm compelled by that to do whatever I can to make his love known to other people. I'm not going to go out and preach the same way you preach. And he's multiple times, my gift is to mother people. And to, you say it all the time, I'm a problem solver. If you come to me and you have some problem, boy, I'm going to do everything I can to try and fix it, because that's the way he created me to be. And it's not from me. I'm selfish by myself. But because of his love, I'm just so compelled just to, okay, what can I do? How can I serve you today? And what's that going to look like? And so oftentimes I think too, as mothers, when you're home in the house, I know, my own daughters, Elizabeth and Catherine, and soon to be Juliet, the way that you're in the house and you're mothering, and you don't always understand the value and the power of that. And the world definitely doesn't. And so it gets attacked a lot.
Yep.
But from that mothering, that's the only reason I'm able, because of my just walk in my own, mothering 10 kids, it's, just in me. But God uses all of that, and he's created me to be that. And so it's just like, I can't help myself. But just to go back to the question, I'm hungry to be the whatever, just to know him more, and because there's so many layers. Like we've talked about, the word is active and living, and I can read the same passage
and get something different.
6 months from each other, and something else is just
I love that,
stands out, and it's true.
And it's what's needed right now, especially in the spiritual battle that we're living in. It's like we have to be, and I've noticed this myself too. It's like I went to church for the first time in which is embarrassing to say, but it's because of personal family stuff. Noah was having games on Sunday in Waco. We were having to go for 7 weeks straight. Right. And we were able to go to church, or I was able to go to church for the first time in I think 5 weeks or something like that. And I just remember going in there, and my spirit just felt completely rejuvenated. Yeah. It was almost like I was it's it's different when you're, it's on you almost to check in with God every day, get in the word every day. But sometimes you let yourself backslide or get a little bit just the New Testament's on my heart. You know what I mean? As much as it is, sometimes, you get a little a little distant from God when it comes to his word, especially. Sure. Yeah. And, even, worship music, you're like, man, I'm so used to this playlist. It's like,
I got a new one, by the way.
Oh, yeah. You got to send me that.
It's good. Getting ready. It's Naomi Rain and whoever else is singing it, and it's good.
Okay. You got to definitely send me that, because I was just feeling a little stagnant a little bit. And that's something I talked about in the book as well, is that, it was hard for me to want to go to Africa to preach the gospel, because I wasn't in the gospel. I wasn't. Right. It was hard to become a foot soldier for the gospel when I'm over here. I don't think I'm really living out the gospel. How can I go tell people about Jesus if I'm not over here, walking with him correctly in a way that I feel is honoring to him. So, I feel like you said, it's seasonal. You go through different times where you're not on fire like you once were. And I feel like that trip to Africa definitely got my spirit kind of, reignited in a different way too. Yeah. And then as well as just those small moments where you really need to kind of reconnect with God almost. And, so I feel like that's...
Yeah, and he's waiting on us.
Yeah, he is. All the time. He's not the one that's distant. We're the one that's distant, so...
He's just waiting.
He is, absolutely. Yeah, wow, just powerful stuff. So what's next for Suubi? What is your...
Oh, wow.
Yeah, what's next for Suubi?
What is next for Suubi? You mean other than the most immediate, we got to get Christmas meals to feed these people? And that's the thing too, go back to Easter and Christmas meals, just the basics. We're talking about the uniforms. So most of these people eat posho. Do you know what posho is? Okay, so a worse version of grits. Right. No butter, no salt. And
grits aren't even good with butter and salt.
Some people think so. Some people like them, including your father-in-law. But so when we do that, it's in order to help them celebrate what Easter is about and then what Christmas is about. And so, but because they don't have this, so it's just one way for us to love them, and it's so great because our sponsors, they'll send money for their Easter meals and Christmas meals or whatever. But every single time I go, in whatever meeting we're in, they will bring up the fact that they love getting their meals. And last year or the year COVID happened, 2020, they did not think that they were going to get them. And so when they came, the praise that went up for the Lord was so beautiful because they really didn't think that they were going to get meals that year. And so it's just stuff like that that's so simple. It's $25, feeds a family of 4 for Easter or Christmas. It's a little more. It used to be 20, and actually 25 is stretching it. But, we try to give them some meat, and we try to give them, we'll give them a soda, which they literally only eat meat and soda when we give them to them two times a year. And it's something that we just take for granted.
Yes.
And so it's such a sweet way to bless the community. And we've also, not even, once our kids and our widows are taken care of, then we start looking where's the most needy in our community. And so we have our, Yahaya, our leper man. We always like to feed him. And I shouldn't call him the leper man. He's just, suffers from or had leprosy, that's the first person I've ever met
with leprosy.
Yes,
Yeah, I was just mind blown. I was like, I didn't think they still existed. That's crazy.
Yeah, and it's he actually just had some pain in his leg, so we had to send him to the clinic. So praying for Yahaya to be well. But so it's just practical stuff meeting practical needs, kind of just to extend the love of Jesus. Yeah. I forgot where you asked me big needs. So my dream is to have a secondary school. So when we first started Suubi, we had a big picture in mind. We first started, it had 12 kids that ended up being adopted, all local and friends of the family and stuff. So that's pretty cool how God did that. And then we had the church because people need to know Jesus. That's the most important thing. And then the school because we wanted to educate the community. And we had so many young people. So all these kids that weren't able to go to school at all, primary. And so we built this primary school. Well, the big picture was for us to have a secondary school and then a trade school. And we want to start a bakery. So we have all these plans and dreams. And we feel like it's going to get there, but we need money. Yeah. And that's always what it comes down to. But right now, secondary school is probably the most urgent just because we're sending our primary schools off
to other schools that are in Uganda that aren't teaching Suubi curriculum. Yeah.
Well, not even the curriculum; it's just the values, and it's we've trained them up to love the Lord, and I'm so proud of our kids. They, they go through and they're just respectful and they're helpful and they're they love Jesus and they share Jesus and they're they grow into leaders. And then once they graduate from primary, they're going to other secondary schools. We're still sponsoring them. We're still counseling them. We're still checking on them consistently. We're still providing uniforms and we're still providing food for their families and all of those things, even though they're in secondary school, but they're not under our teaching and under our leadership who, we loves the Lord and stuff. So my heart's really for a secondary school right now, just so we can.
What's the number that's going to take?
Keep that. Oh gosh. It just depends on if we can find, how much does the land cost, or can we do it where we already have land, or can we buy a school that's already been there and redo it? And it's $100,000 easy, $250,000 just for the whole picture. It's just going to be it's a lot. And
all right. So if anyone's listening that has 100 racks or 250 racks that they want to, drop on the Suubi Project, you can donate at TheSuubiProject.com. They might. Is there? Sometimes.
But you know what? Yeah. We laugh about that, and that is so true. I would love to take, but I'm blessed by every donation, and even the $5 donations that come in. That's a blessing because that's what that person can do. Yeah. And when we all get together and do the part we can do, that's when God can use that. He takes our bread and fish and He multiplies it. It's like I don't have all the answers, I don't have all the resources, but He will take whatever we offer, and He multiplies that, and that's what gets us done. This is not just me and Gary. Right. We started it, but this is God doing His work through people that say, here's my 1 fish. Here's my 20 fish. Here's my 100,000 fish. Yep. Because don't get me wrong, I'd love some big money. But it's also, and then people feel like they've invested in their partners with us. And that's what we want.
Exactly. And you do such a good job of keeping up with letting the people know that donate, what their money's going towards. And I think that's so huge in the world that we're living in, especially when we see, the Black Lives Matter movement completely was a hoax, and they raised a bunch of money and it was just going directly to the person that started it. And you see that even with the anti-Semitic one, the money that Kyrie Irving had to donate for his comments, or not even his comments, for retweeting a Amazon clip. or documentary. He had to donate $500,000 to an organization that's very similar to that. So you see, these people raising a bunch of money for organizations that go back into the elite's pockets. Like we even see that with the Bill Gates and Melinda Foundation, where a lot of money goes. It's just basically, it's a tax loophole that a lot of people use, and unfortunately, we've even seen that with I don't remember which one it was, either FEMA or Red Cross, where something got exposed where a lot of the money was not going to where it was being said. And that's what's so cool about SuubiProject. It's like, it's so real, and it's so you do such a good job of letting people know. Like you take a picture of all those Christmas baskets that you're talking about on that big field of everybody just getting one, and you get to see people smiling and holding their meal. You get to see the uniforms, so it's something where you're like, wow, like that uniform that kid's wearing, like I had something to do with that. I put that, I had the money that God blessed me with, I used it to give. And shout out
something tangible.
Shout out my buddy Turner Schwartz and Cecily. They're pastors at Calvary Church, and Cecily read 21 Days in Africa, and she felt so led that they're going to add the SuubiProject onto their 2023 giving.
Yay, praise the Lord.
Yeah, and it's just incredible because Turner's a great friend of mine, and the fact that the story of Suubi and just the real things that y'all are doing out there for real people, led somebody to add that to their giving list.
That's
especially
wonderful.
somebody Turner's so respectable, like he has a heart for ministry, and he's in ministry for I think the last 7 years as being a pastor, and the fact that somebody of that standing, in my opinion, taking on that that role
awesome.
is super helpful, because he's going to share it with his friends and stuff like that, so it can grow that way, and it's just an incredible thing. So definitely love what you said about Jesus using the 5 loaves and 2 fish and then growing it from there. Have you seen that? Have you experienced that out there?
Oh, certainly. Yeah. It's evident in almost everything. It's even the people that work for us, they're offering their fish and their loaves, and the Lord's just multiplying that. And you see it in the kids' lives. If you can, we help one kid take that burden off their parents, and maybe they're able to help another of their children, or we see it
everywhere.
Consistently. Yeah. And just Jesus being preached. I mean, you just see constantly people coming to know him, and the discipleship happening. And
if you had to put a number on it, how many salvations do you think Suubi's responsible for? How many soul winners you got?
I don't know.
Yeah, you don't know? All right, you're humble.
I don't know.
All right, what are you most proud of when it comes to your ministry?
What am I most proud of? Gosh, I don't know. Probably just that. I think it's just seeing people love each other.
Yeah.
And I have to say I'm pretty proud of our longevity, because it's, we at the beginning dealt with some corruption and had to recorrect and get going in the right direction again with new people. God's faithfulness was so huge, and during that whole season, because I didn't know how we were going to do it.
Yeah.
So seeing him redirect us and get us some people that we could trust and get us back on the right path was just amazing. Just his faithfulness is just incredible, and just how he constantly shows some fruit, because when you see the fruit, then you're like, okay, let's do this. You get excited.
Yeah.
It's like, the 3-pointer in basketball terms or whatever.
Yeah.
You just, you get that reward, and then you want to do it again. You want to do it again. And so I think seeing the people's lives really being changed, that's what I'm proud of, I guess.
Yeah. And that love, like from Sarge's birthday that day, I'll never forget, like how much they just, so I wrote about it in the book, but Gary, which is Cheryl's husband and my father-in-law, it was his birthday while we were out there, and we came back from seeing one of the widows. I forget. I think it was the one. I think it was Catherine, the one that you guys built a house for. And we come back, and we open up the Suubi gate, and there's lines, like 200 kids lined up with birthday cards, all in their hand, all made from themselves. And they had trumpet players singing the happy birthday song. Sarge comes through in the van, his head's poking out the window, just like it was so loving. Then we go into that room, and then the room just felt so heavy with just love, and it was just first time I think I've ever cried like a tear of joy before. I was just like so shooken up by it. And I was just, it was one of those representations of like, man, that's the fruit, that's like, that's where you see that moment of like, wow, like all the work that you put in, and also like time is such a currency. I'm really learning that the older I get, time is a currency, and you have poured so much time into Suubi, Even when I lived at your in your backyard for 8 months, and
Yes, you did.
I did in an RV. So thank you for that, by the way.
And we're still friends.
Yeah, we're still friends. Still made it out on the other side. Enjoyed doing life with you, but I was able to see, how much time, you poured into Suubi. You try to almost every day, get in that office and check in and do the things you have to do. Send out email. I've seen how long you've taken to publish an email with how many times you've gone over it. So you truly care. You want the message to come across in a way that's just straight up Jesus centered. And I've never noticed any kind of, you say your flesh is selfish. I've never noticed anything that was selfish about what you do out there, which I think that's so admirable, because it shows that you really do it for the people, and most importantly, you do it for God. And I just think that's a testament in itself, because I haven't witnessed that before. I think it's easy to get lost in the sauce of like American Christianity, and get in a bubble.
Yeah.
And I haven't been, a Christian the longest amount of time, but I've even felt like in the bubble before of like, what ministry looks like in America. But seeing it over there, it just opened my eyes in a huge different way, you know?
Yeah. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
I salute you for that.
And going back to the word, because you just said you're talking about Christian and being in a bubble, but it's also the world we live in today and the amount of information we get. Because you were talking earlier about how to use it, because if we have to be in the Word more so ever than before, because of how much information and deception and how many lies are out there, and we have to be discerning people, and you don't get that way without the Word. So
no, 100%,
lots of prayer
for sure, definitely needed.
Yeah.
Wow.
But God's faithful. I mean, look at this. There's no way coming from a homeschool, stay-at-home mom, that I now run a ministry in Uganda, Africa.
Yeah,
it's just, that's all Him. It really is.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's
and you're talking about the time, and sometimes it's only a few minutes. It's the bread and the fish. It's like, Lord, I'm gonna start this. I'm gonna need you to help me finish it, and then I need you to be fruitful when it comes back. So it really is Him.
And I just cheese plate in the kitchen.
Love my cheese plate. But I really cannot stress that enough. It's just literally me living my life, answering the call when He said, hey, can you do this? And then just trusting Him to get through it, and surrendering it back to Him consistently, and just offering what I can and just asking Him to bless it. And He does. Yeah. And He's the one that brings the fruit. So
have you ever partnered with any organizations out there or any other nonprofits that have been wanted to get involved in what you're doing on a level like that?
No, really haven't. I mean, I don't think most people realize that it's a one-man show.
Right.
Well,
No, I know what you mean. And that's
the Lord in me.
And I say this a lot. I actually talked about it today with somebody I met at a coffee shop, like a one-man ministry, not to say that, other people aren't involved in it, but really like, this is what God's put on your plate, and it's like on you to do everything that you can from there out. And like, it's your faith journey while also, helping others grow in their faith, kind of similar how I view it as well. Yeah. So, that's it's
not like a one-man ministry but it's like the day-to-day stuff, which is sometimes I feel like, because I don't feel like I'm not doing it as well as I want to do it, but it's a constant reminder, just keep giving it to Him, because there have been things that have changed over the years. There have been things that are getting better. And I know that there's something in my story that will resonate with someone else, that you can do hard things. When the Lord calls you to something, you can do it even when it's hard, even when you don't have all the answers, even when you I still have a million questions. How are we actually going to get there? But I liken it to the fact that, He doesn't give us all the steps right away. And He doesn't even show us I have a big dream, but getting there is insurmountable. And so He doesn't show us that because my flesh would run. Right. If I knew how hard this was going to be and how long it was going to take and how much of my life it was going to require, I probably would have ran away a long time ago.
I love that you said that, because that's so real. That's so true. Yeah. If you knew how much it was going to require, you would walk. Yeah. Wow.
And so he's faithful to us by, here's the next step. Here's the next step. I don't know if you ever saw the Indiana Jones movie where you never seen Indiana Jones.
No, I'm not. I'm
this
not great
is sad.
with movies,
so all the older people that ever might listen to this will get it. So he has to step out on these rocks before the bridge actually appears. And that's what it feels like sometimes. It's falling. It's like I'm taking a step of faith and trusting that He's going to build what needs to be built and get me to where He wants me to go. And that's just kind of where I have to.
If somebody were thinking about starting a ministry or a nonprofit over, away from America, what advice would you give them?
Be absolutely 100% sure God's calling you to do it. That's the best people. Even when we had some families adopting, there were times when it got really hard, and you start questioning: Am I supposed to be doing this? Is this really what God wants for me? And my only thing I could ever say to them is, what did God say to you when you felt the call to do this? And was that real? So if that's what they believe he said, then you hold on to that and you keep going until he shuts the door. Until he shuts it to where you can't, there's no way around, through, under, above what you're trying to do. And just keep trusting him. And it's the same for ministry. If he's calling you to do that, make absolutely 100% sure, because that's going to be this cornerstone of truth in your ministry, that God called me to do this. And just like it says in scripture, I'm not, keep your hand to the plow and keep going. Don't turn back.
Right.
And it's just, and you just keep going. But it's also, a lot of other people have done it a lot better than I've done it. But hopefully God will,
you should never compare yourself to others.
Never compare, because
Yeah.
that gets you in big trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Because I know, even though I'm not doing it as well as other people, and we're not doing it the same as other people, God's being glorified, and
absolutely,
his message is being out there, and people's lives are being changed.
Yeah.
And that's all I need to worry about. And so that's the thing, is for people wanting to start something, but make sure you know that's, make sure you can go back to, this is my stone where he said, yes, this is what I want you to do. Would you recommend that people partner with an organization that's doing that work first, to get kind of like implemented in it, and just kind of get used to like helping people out in that regards first? I think that's a good place to start. Sure. If that's where, because you can learn stuff from other people for sure.
Right.
I don't know why we started the way, Gary, when sold some assets and we were building our house, and I just remember standing in my kitchen and thinking, okay, Lord, you have blessed us abundantly. I do not want to this house to be my life, like my testimony, because it's hay and stubble. It's like, so I started calling it like, what do you want me to do? How can I, not because I owe him something, but what is it? You've given us this, you've given us these resources. What is in your heart for us to do? And Uganda just kept coming up over and over and over again. And this path just led. And so we bought land, and then we built a church, and we just started doing this thing because that's what he was telling us to do. I didn't have all the answers.
Yeah.
I didn't know where it was going, but I just knew, I just couldn't not do it. And so when he calls you to something like that,
right,
then so other people will have a different story. Learning is always a great idea.
Yeah.
Going up side by side with someone that's already doing it. And there's lots of great organizations that are doing different things. And
are you planning on taking a team next year?
I would like to take a team, but it's we're coming up on November and December. But yes, we're looking at taking a team
For the summer?
end of June, probably.
End of
1st
June.
of July, possibly.
How would people go about doing that if they were interested?
Probably just emailing info at TheSuubiProject. This team will be probably different because it's the first team we've had in 3 years, which our kids are like praying that we're going to bring a team. They love us bringing a team. They love us bringing us, we always bring them little goodie bags with some stuff in it. And we want to get T-shirts again for them because all the ones that we've given them are just ratty now, and it's a big deal to them. And so I'm not sure how many new team members we'll take, because it's a big thing. You got to train them. You got to, make sure they're comfortable. Because just going to Africa alone, and then you've got, the aspects of ministry and being around needy people, which you are very aware.
Yeah, it's
We
way
need
different.
to make sure they know how to respond when a kid asks them for a laptop or a watch. So, sorry I let you down on that one.
I handled it well. I think,
But we would love to get trips going again.
Yeah.
For sure. Because it ministers to the staff. We've had teachers go and minister to our teachers, and it's so good for them to see other people, and for other people just to input and share knowledge and
Right. And
all of that.
my buddy Livio was supposed to come with me, and I remember you were saying that because he's a nurse, he can really help out there in a way that other people, can't, because of that profession that he has and that healing hand.
Yeah.
So definitely think that if anybody's interested that has some medical experience, definitely come on out and help out in that regard.
Sure, yeah. But teachers, social workers, people that build stuff, even like our I love watching our teenagers and younger. We've had a couple younger ones go because they just love on the kids.
Yeah, and they need
That's
that.
just what they do. Well, they play with them and they run around that field with them. That I'm not going to do that. And it's just that's good for them. It's good for their hearts. And it's just reminding them. We always tell our teams, your number one goal is not to follow some curriculum or some schedule because it's going to get messed up. Your number one goal is to love the person in front of you and love them well, so that when you leave, they know I am loved.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's why, and I give credit to you. You came up with the subtitle of the book.
Oh, I did.
Yeah, ministering to the one in front of you. You said it, and I was like, I think we're gonna use that as a subtitle. So,
I'm sure I heard it somewhere else.
all right. Speaking of books, when's your book coming out? When are you writing a book?
That's a good question.
Yeah, do you think it's a time thing? Because I feel like it's coming.
I feel like it's coming too.
Yeah, good.
We've had a lot in the last decade
Yeah.
going on, and so I think it's just a matter of slowing down long enough to get it on paper.
Right, and your next chapter in life looks like it's going to be slower.
It'll be different.
Yeah, yeah. You don't know if it's going to be slower or not.
It'll be slower, but it will definitely be different, and we're looking forward to it.
Yeah.
It'll be exciting.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
we're excited. I've shared it on the show already. We're doing a little homestead on the family land, and we'll have Cheryl and Gary move out there shortly. House for sure is selling, right? As
Yep.
far as
we close tomorrow.
close tomorrow.
Yeah.
Oh Lord, let's
And
go.
it's so bittersweet because we
Yeah,
have
of course
loved
it's bittersweet.
our home a lot. It's been a lot of prayers have been answered in our home.
Yeah. I hear you're not doing the Christmas and Thanksgiving there, or is that still kind of on the fence? We haven't talked in a while, like I said. We're like kind of like, hey, we still don't.
Yeah, I did ask Catherine, hey, do you guys want to host? But
yeah, I'll be out of town for Thanksgiving, but
I know. So she said if I come and help, but we'll probably have it there. You got to have last Thanksgiving, last Christmas.
Yeah, there we go. All right, that's good to hear.
close-
All right, she committed. She's live on air. Sargent family, everybody that's your kids are tuning in. Like, are we doing Christmas Day? That was the question they told me to ask you.
Are you serious?
No, I'm just kidding. Oh, that's funny. But
Yeah, it's a lot of good memories there,
Yeah.
for sure. But also such a blessing. You know, we tell everybody that the fact that our kids and grandkids are going to be right there living life with us is, you don't.
yeah,
It's unique and special, and so
Yeah.
we're excited.
yeah, we're super pumped, and
Yeah.
I think it's going to be very fruitful as well. So,
Yeah.
one last thing I want to talk to you about is because of you mentioned it a couple times. You had some friends of the family adopt as well, and you've adopted as well. And I actually just wrote a couple scripts about adoption. And have you ever heard of orphan trains? In in New York City in the 1800s, early 1900s,
yes.
they used to
Yeah.
just put kids on a
On
train
trains.
and send them to the farms. It's kind of crazy. Look that up if you guys ever get a chance. But I was reading about like the messiness and like the ups and downs of adoption and how it's not an easy process. And could you speak to somebody that was maybe considering it? Like of some advice or some things that you've learned along the way of the adoption process, or even not even just the process, just the outcome of it, or just how the bread and butter of it goes.
Yeah, that's not even a can of worms. That's like a can of bees.
Yeah.
Opening
Okay.
up.
Yeah. That's a long-winded one.
It is, but I think just the gist of it is again, know that that's what God's calling you to do,
Mm-hmm.
because obviously loving a kid and, providing a home for them, it's very needed,
Right.
and just a family for them.
Yeah.
But it is hard, so get ready for hard.
Mm-hmm.
And it's even when it's easy and you think it's going smooth, then there's probably underlying stuff that you may not be aware of. But when God calls us to hard things, He sees us through it, and it's also it's a reminder of. And actually, I've been reminded of this very recently, like even yesterday afternoon, that we are not rescuing a child, and we're not.
I like that you say that.
It's God rescuing both of us, because we, parents of adopted kids learn stuff too. And of course, children that are put in a home. But you have to just love, even when that love's not necessarily accepted, because just like, we're walking through where you do the best you can do. You love your kids. You love, these if you're adoption, you just, you love them and you try. If they're babies, maybe it's easier because you raise them up. But if you're like, we adopted older kids, and so I didn't have them when they were infants, so I didn't know all their little habits and stuff, and how they communicated or how they received love or whatever. So you have to learn these things as you go.
Right.
And there's communication that can happen. But I think ultimately it comes down to loving that child the best to your ability and raising them, and to know the Lord above all. And then just being willing to accept that, just like Jesus does, that He loves us, but not all of us love Him back, or not all of us accept or receive that the same way as maybe somebody else would. So you have to be it can't be about you.
Right.
Adoption can never be about you. It's not like, I'm going to adopt him, be whatever. No.
Right. No, that's a really good perspective, and I think that it's something that needs to be talked about more and considered more. And because Catherine's mentioned adoption before with myself, and I go I don't feel like God's calling me to that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if God's talking to you, Catherine, about that, but I haven't heard him say nothing to me about it. So, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, you know, I'll listen to, you know, Catherine's thoughts on it and stuff. And, you know, you always want to help out and, you know, but I'm still learning. Like you said, you got to learn your kids. Like I'm still learning, you know, Malachi's personality, which is my toddler. I'm still learning how to communicate with him, learning like what he likes, what his love language is, and like how to, you know, just navigate parenting with him, you know. So it's like to throw in a whole nother, you know, child into the mix that, you know, may have come from, you know, a previous household. That's hard, and that's something that I don't feel equipped with yet. I know God doesn't call the equipped; He equips the called. But I'm still, you know,
good that you know that.
Yeah, I do know that. But yeah, so I definitely am glad that you said that it's not for you, you know, and that's what would, you know, honestly make me say yes, is like if it really did feel directly from the Lord, like heavy, you know, because everything that I feel like I've felt, like even the RV journey and starting this podcast and going into ministry, that all felt very like a heavy pressing, where it was like the thought could not leave my mind. It couldn't escape. Yeah. It was one of those things where it was like it would continue coming back up even when my flesh like pushed it out.
Right.
And I feel like that hasn't happened with adoption yet, but also I'm only 29, so
there's
you know,
still time.
There's still time for that to happen. But I just wanted to get your perspective.
Well,
on
adoption
it.
is a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful picture of God's love for us, adopting us into His family.
Absolutely.
So it is a beautiful thing. But I think some people, not everybody. I mean, I think a lot of people know, and there's definitely more information available than there used to be years and years ago. Yeah. And so, but even for us, you know, adopting, I felt very called. Gary didn't necessarily feel that, but he just said, let's keep praying about it and see. And so it's, we definitely knew God had called us to it, especially the way He showed us our children. But it hasn't been easy, and that's okay, because it's not necessarily, it's still rewarding. It's still, you know, loving them, and, you know, just what we've invested in their lives. And, but it is, you have to completely relinquish self and the outcome, you know, their future, just like with your biological kids. Yeah, you know, you can pray for them and raise them and do everything you think that you're doing right. And ultimately it's, you know, them and their relationship with the Lord and what their future holds.
Right. And I feel like you have to experience that firsthand to be able to know that, you know, and because even, you know, right now I don't have that perspective because my kids aren't grown yet. I still have small kids. So it's like, I understand what you're saying, but I feel like a lot of that comes with the knowledge of like seeing, you know, having that experience of like, oh, my kids are grown. Like I raise them this way, but they're walking this way. Yeah. You know, like it's got to be emotionally heavy, you know, for a season or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. But once you come around to the grips of like, you know, the biblical truth aspect of it and through the lens of God, it's like, you know, you did your part the best that you could, and you got to just pray for them and hope that it comes to fruition the way God has in plan for the whole family core unit. Right. You know,
and that's for all of our kids.
Yeah, all of the kids. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah,
that's for all of our kids.
Yeah, because I was just thinking, like, you know, how would I react to something like when my kids are grown and they're going down, I don't know, let's just say a hypothetical path I don't necessarily agree with or like think that's good for them, or is, you know, really secular, you know, of that nature. Just, you know, trusting the process of like they'll come back to their roots, you know, like kind of like prodigal son parable that was given by Jesus.
That's why you build that firm foundation.
Yeah, you got to build the firm foundation, because eventually, you know,
and He promises, train them up and they will not depart. And He doesn't say they won't, you know, go off the trail for a minute. Yeah. But when they know the truth and they have a solid foundation and a relationship with Him, they'll come back. And that's the thing, whether it's biological kids or adopted kids, God writes their stories. Right. And it's Him that you want to be glorified in their stories. Yeah. So for me, it's like when my kids do something that I don't agree with, or, you know, make wrong choices or sinful in one way or the other, I when I was a young mom would take the blame for that. But then when they would do something that was great or something, then it's like, oh, well, I'm not going to take the credit, because that's God's grace, right? Yes, we train them, but it's His grace and His love and all of that. So I'm not going to take the blame for their choices when I don't agree with it, but I'm also not going to take the credit. That's good for something that they don't do, biological or adopted kids. Right. And you know, just keep loving them. That's what. Yeah, that's all you can do, is just keep loving them, just like Jesus does for us. That's really what it is. And I think the older I get, I realize, well, I've been a brat before, you know, and I've gotten way off the trail before, and He still loves me. You know, or I've been whatever. So He just keeps loving us, and we find our way back.
Yeah. So. So we talked about adoption. We talked about Suubi as a whole. And one thing that my family, Catherine and I do, we've been doing it since Catherine was doing it before I even was with her. But since we got married, we took on the commitment as well, which is sponsoring a child in Africa, which has been really rewarding to see.
Suubi is amazing too.
I got to meet her when I was out there. Yeah. And that was really cool to see that she had a connection with Catherine that was so powerful that, continued that sponsorship throughout, the last, I think, 5 or 6 years now. And it's awesome the way you kind of engineer that and you put the sponsor and the sponsee together. And they have the kids write the letters to the sponsor once a year, twice a year. And then the sponsor, sends goodie bags and, new backpacks and stuff and blesses. And then I think the commitment, for the student is $35, maybe $40 a month, depending on which age group, correct?
That is correct. Yeah. We're trying to raise it to at least 35. Actually, it's 38.
38.
But,
Yeah.
We'll take what we can get.
Yeah, right.
And then secondary is where we're struggling because secondary costs have gone up extremely. Extremely. Is that the correct way to put that? Anyway, they've gone up a lot. And so it was 40 a month, which doesn't cover it. So, but we'll take 40.
What's it now?
It's 50.
50. Okay.
Like so 49.89 or something.
So we got 38 and we got 50, which is, in the times that we're living in, obviously, economically, it could be a burden for some, but for some, they might be blessed and they might feel that that's a number that they feel comfortable with sponsoring, especially when it comes to changing a life. So I call on the people that are listening on I Like Birds to, if you have it in you to, have a new goal for 2023 and you want to be a part of the Suubi Project, I ask you if you prayerfully consider sponsoring a challenge, because you get to see the actual fruit of that. Like we talked about earlier, you get to see so much of the fruit just by what your money's going towards, and you're changing a life, you're impacting a life, you're educating a life that can go out there and spread the love of Christ and also grow into into ministering to more than just one person. The ripple effect.
Yeah.
And with the sponsorship, do you have a like I remember when I was there, you saying that you have a certain amount of kids that don't have a sponsor. Do you have that number that
we are going into season of recruitment. And so we'll probably have at least 20, 25, 30 kids that are going to be added to school. Even I don't know how many it all comes down to how much we can get for sponsors. Right. But also people that can't, this is a thing I haven't really talked a lot about, is if you cannot sponsor a child fully, then get a friend to sponsor a child with. And, you can do co-sponsorship is a thing. That. So it's just as long as the students' needs are met. But we're going to have quite a few.
Okay.
And we have 27 of our primary kids are going to advance to secondary school. So that number is going to jump as far as cost to keep them in the school. And so it's another thing to consider.
All right. Absolutely. And I feel like one thing that I'll just share this totally publicly is because I've had a hard time, and I've had open conversations about this before, is having a hard time tithing to one spot, right. And I don't think it's I know it's biblically, says the first 10% of what you make, it goes to the tithe. But I'm one of those people, and maybe I'll change my tune as the years go on, but I'm one of those people that spread out the tithe. I spread it out to my church Calvary. I spread it out to Destiny Leaders. I spread it out to FCA. And then TheSuubiProject is another one. So I've experienced what that's like, because it shows, like, I've shaken hands with a few of the people that I've given money to, and I know where that money's going, and I see the movement, and I see the ministry behind it, right. And it's been a really it's been awesome, honestly, to be able to see that, and because then you know where your money's going, and it doesn't feel like you're paying for just the fog machines or the buildings and stuff like that, and those are needs for sure, and that's why I like it. I like that. That's a good question. Ooh. That's funny.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's good, because I was gonna add more stuff to it to say that's part of the needs for sure. But yeah, and that's where it's I really think it's so much bigger than just where we're at too. We talked a lot about when I was there. It's like, man, it's crazy that you can be born on a position of a map and be at a disadvantage
Yeah.
based on your coordinates.
Yeah.
You know, and the fact that we were born on a good part of the coordinates,
Yeah.
you know, for a reason, to be a blessing to others. You know,
Yeah.
America, the light of the world, means like let's help out other people around the world. You know,
Yeah.
if we're sending 19 billion to Ukraine, I mean, we can send personally $50 to Africa, right, Taylor? So, all right, we're
Can't
getting a
believe
little.
you just went there.
Yeah, I know, but sometimes you just got to sprinkle in that little bit of truth. It's just kind of like, wow, you know. So, but yeah, so Suubi, definitely, you can sponsor a kid, and it makes a world of difference. So,
Yeah.
so Cheryl, thank you
love
for
that.
coming on here.
Thank you for having me.
I
It
think
was fun.
this was so great to have your story, and I feel like we could have went even further and longer about going. We didn't even go back, which is good because I feel like you've gone back on previous interviews that you've done. So it was cool to talk about what's happening right now and what was on the. You're making a huge difference on the ground, which is incredible, and to be able to see that and be a part of that in this family has been incredible, and so
Yeah.
cool to share it with people that I know, and I'm hoping to
thank you
share it
for
out,
sharing,
out
yeah.
there more and more and more. Because that's something that I felt. I said, how can I help when I was there? You know, with birds and with a book, and you know, and just doing my part. So
Yeah, it is sharing for sure. That's how, I mean, people that have visited, sponsors, they share, and that's how it's grown. So we're very, very thankful we have a good support system.
yeah.
And our donors and our sponsors are dear to our hearts. And so we
Right.
just love and thank them. But that's how it grows.
Yep.
It's word of mouth and sharing.
And I encourage the people that are watching to
Everybody throw your fish in the basket, your bread in the basket.
share it around. You know, share the clips, share the show, share the book, share the website, share anything you can that is super helpful to get people
Yeah.
aware. And that's
We do
awareness.
need social media help, so.
Yeah, social media help for sure. It's hard to keep up with. It really
so
is.
hard, yeah.
But awareness. I want to share this
Awareness,
one
yeah.
thing. Awareness is so important, and it's one of the big takeaways from the book that I've really noticed. It's like raising that awareness. And we're on the beach last week. Catherine and I were walking, and this lady stops and she says, "Man, there are 2 stingrays that just keep on swimming up to the shore." And I was like, "Oh, really? Okay." So then we're walking down, and maybe like 4 or 5 minutes later, we see the stingrays. And if she never told us about the
Yeah.
stingrays, would we have seen the stingrays?
Right.
You know, so that
She made you aware.
She made me aware. So in that awareness of like, you know, something like this, it can open up the eyes of people
Oh,
in
for
a
sure.
big way.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I hope that little
Yeah.
story can help other people
Yeah.
raise awareness
People
as well.
don't know what they don't know.
Exactly.
And then when they know, they're held accountable.
Yeah. Now you know. TheSuubiProject.com,
Yes.
y'all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Cheryl.
All right.
All right. Appreciate it. Thank you, Taylor.
No problem.